A little earlier, we made a what if surrounding if Boruto were the main character of Naruto instead of his father. In the previous story, which you can watch here, we had Boruto born at the same time as Naruto and possessed the Nine Tails. However, due to his complete inability to control it, in a style almost similar to Gaara, the Third Hokage places an extra seal over top of the 8 Trigrams, not too dissimilar from the 5 Element seal, but perfected. This completely cut off Boruto's ability to make use of Kurama's energy, which forced him to lean on something else. During his month off from the Chunin Exams, he trained under Jiraiya, who would have taught him the basics of Sage Energy and how to attain Sage Mode. When returning to the village, Boruto managed to make use of this technique, but failed to beat Neji Hyuga and ended up in the infirmary. Upon the start of the Konoha Crush, Boruto would rush off to help Sasuke, and together they would bring Gaara down. However, Sasuke would still be on his path towards the darkness, and Boruto would attempt to bring him back. However, in their final confrontation at the Valley of the End, Boruto finds that his incomplete Sage Mode is inferior to Sasuke's Cursed Seal of Heaven, which grants Sasuke Sage Energy as well, but comes with the added benefit of passive absorption of energy, instead of needing to meditate to do so. This meant that Sasuke would manage to beat Boruto and leave for the village hidden in the Sound, where Orochimaru was waiting for him. And while this took place, Boruto would leave the Hidden Leaf to train with Jiraiya for 2.5 years, and that is where we are now. I hope you're all ready, because I hope to finish up this story today. Welcome to the Amagi. Before we begin, we publish a new video every day, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos. The Amagi's reach stretches beyond just this channel, so if you're a fan of us, please consider subscribing to our other channels and following us on all of our social media. Help us reach our goal of passing 100,000 followers on all of our accounts by the end of the year. Boruto has left the village to train with Jiraiya, where he's been perfecting his Sage Mode and learning to counter Genjutsu, which are the primary specialty of the Uchiha and one of the most dangerous techniques that a ninja as a whole can encounter. All the while, Jiraiya boils on the 5 Element seal that the Third Hokage placed on him. Jiraiya at first was fine with leaving it on, but ever since Konoha was attacked by Orochimaru and the Third Hokage was killed, Jiraiya begins to wonder if it might be best to remove the seal. If he removed the 5 Element seal, he might be able to help Boruto get a power up, especially during this time when Konoha was in a bad spot. So after a lengthy debate with Boruto, the two decide to remove the 5 Element seal. They remove the seal and Jiraiya attempts to teach Boruto how to channel the tailed beast's power, but the moment he tries to, Boruto's will is overpowered by the Nine Tails, and he quickly goes straight into his version 2 cloak. There it attacks Jiraiya, and Jiraiya fights back. Jiraiya ends up nearly killed by it, but in the end he manages to subdue it and return Boruto to his base form. But Boruto's in bad shape as well, his body red from the constant destruction and regeneration. The cellular damage is pretty bad, but Jiraiya is not in very good shape himself. He manages to get himself and Boruto to the hospital, where they attempt to be healed. During this time, Jiraiya opts to put a new seal on top of Boruto's 8 Trigrams, but instead of using the 5 Element seal, he instead uses the evil sealing method, which would keep the seal closed but also allow Boruto to access the power at any time he should need it. They recover during this time, and once this was done, they return to their training, where Boruto instead focuses on Sage Mode. Jiraiya warns him to be careful of the Nine Tails and that he should only use its power when he's certain that his willpower is strong enough to retain control. The Nine Tails would remain sealed within him, but if the Nine Tails' consciousness overshadowed Boruto's, it would be able to take command of his body. And even in a sealed and weakened state, the Nine Tails would cause incredible damage. And so Boruto decides not to use it unless it's absolutely an emergency. He continues to train his Sage Mode. After 2.5 years, Boruto would return to the Hidden Leaf village, where he'd catch up with Sakura and Kakashi. Here, they would likely try to do the bell test again for old time's sake. Of course, this likely would go the same as it did with Naruto, ending with Boruto threatening to spoil the next Icha novel. Boruto has always had a mischievous side to him, and would be willing to use some dirty tactics to win, so it's not beyond the realm of possibility that Boruto would do the same. Some things just never change, like father like son. After a while, word reaches Konoha that Gaara has been kidnapped by the Akatsuki. In response, they send Team 7 to rescue Gaara. During this time, they would meet up with Gaara's siblings as well as Chiyo. They would head for the Akatsuki's lair, where they'd meet up with Team Guy, who were sent on a mission to aid Team Kakashi. They would find it too late, with Gaara already dead. Boruto and Kakashi would chase after Deidara, who's attempting to flee with Gaara's body, all while Chiyo and Sakura face off against Sasori. Upon seeing Gaara's lifeless body, Boruto would attack Deidara, telling him he would make him pay for what he's done. Boruto would activate his Sage Mode quickly, where he would use this power to beat Deidara down, but he's frustrated to find that it's merely a clay clone. Boruto is upset seeing that Gaara is dead and that his murderer got away. Boruto would apologize to Gaara that he hadn't shown up sooner and reflects on his life and the similarities he shared with Boruto. But there is no time to waste. They return to try and help in the fight against Sasori, only to find that Sasori has already been defeated. Upon seeing Gaara's lifeless remains, Chiyo feels guilt and revives him using the one's own life reincarnation technique to bring him back to life at the expense of her own. Boruto laments this but is glad to see Gaara alive again, which he displays with a hug. Boruto would promise Gaara to not let them hurt him again. They would return to the leaf where Sakura would explain Sasori's words and how he planned to meet with Kabuto in a place in the hidden village in the grass known as Tenchi Bridge. With their new Jonin, Yamato overseeing them in Kakashi's place, as well as the introduction of Sai to Team 7, they head out. During this time, most of Team 7 and Sai don't mix well. While Boruto never physically attacks him, he would admit that he talks a lot of crap about Sasuke and is awfully annoying because of such. When they reach the bridge, Yamato uses the transformation technique in an attempt to fool Kabuto, but Orochimaru shows up and both he and Kabuto see through this. They had intended to kill Sasori anyway, so Team 7 did them a favor. They attack Yamato still, and a fight erupts on the bridge. Boruto would enter Sage Mode and engage Orochimaru in battle, his power being enough to push the Jonin back, who would then commend Boruto on doing the one thing Orochimaru never could, which was to attain Sage Mode. Boruto doesn't seem so satisfied with this statement though, instead answering it with a question. Where is Sasuke? Orochimaru would force them back onto the bridge and then destroy it, causing them to fall. The only one who does not fall is Sai, who opts to join Orochimaru in hopes of growing close enough to Sasuke that he might kill him. Meanwhile, Boruto, Sakura, and Yamato fight against the current to get back to land, where they attempt to catch up. Sai fails to kill Sasuke, and due to the relationship Boruto and Sakura have with him, Sai is convinced not to assassinate him. They eventually arrive and meet up with Sasuke for the first time in nearly 3 years. Sasuke wishes to show them that they mean very little to him, and so he would attempt to incapacitate them. He would prepare to kill Boruto, and Boruto would be speechless. He would ask how Sasuke could do this to them. Boruto would awaken his Sage Mode and attack Sasuke with it, forcing Sasuke to awaken his Cursed Seal of Heaven's second stage. Boruto would shout at him, "We were bros! How could you just throw that away? For so long we lived and died with each other. We all three became one unit. How can you throw that away like we're nothing?" And Sasuke would reply without any sign of emotion, "Because you meant nothing. You were a stepping stone, a phase in my life." Boruto would shake his head. "No, we meant more. You saved my life from Haku on the bridge and could have died. You were willing to sacrifice everything for me. You can't say our bond never mattered." Sasuke would smile. "You're right. For a while it did matter, and for a moment I nearly chose you guys over my revenge. But no longer. I've cast off my bonds to you in exchange for power. You mean nothing to me now. Let me demonstrate that." Sasuke would then attack Boruto with killing intent. Boruto could sense it, and in his anger he also clashes with killing intent. This goes on for a while, and Boruto finds that he's nearly evenly matched with Sasuke. Eventually, Orochimaru calls out to Sasuke and tells him that they don't have much time to waste, and that Konoha reinforcements would be on their way now. With that, Sasuke would state that his battle with Boruto isn't over, and Boruto would say, "You're damn right it's not." Sasuke would disappear. Boruto would then return to the village with Team 7. Boruto would be silent, thinking about this over a bowl of Ichiraku Ramen's daily special. Sakura would ask what's on his mind, but Boruto would look to Sakura and tell her that there's no saving Sasuke. He would tell her that he had every intention of killing them, and that he would have too if Boruto hadn't stopped him. He tells Sakura that he's sorry, but he can't keep his promise to her. If he ever brings Sasuke back to Konoha, it will be in a casket, because that's what Sasuke will drive him to do. After this, Kakashi, having recovered, brings his team together to discuss the Tenchi Bridge recon mission, where he comes to realize that Boruto will eventually need to face off against Sasuke, which may result in a deadly confrontation in which Boruto will need everything he can to defeat Sasuke. So he begins to train Boruto. Together, they would discover that Boruto's natural chakra affinity is lightning release, just like Kakashi. Kakashi would attempt to teach him the Chidori and would explain what it was. The Chidori was a failed attempt to add lightning release to a Rasengan. He tells Boruto that if he can manage to perfect this, he may create a brand new jutsu that would be incredibly powerful. So for a time, Boruto would train his chakra control as well as his Rasengan and the Chidori, attempting to find the perfect middle ground. It's then that they're informed of the death of Asuma Sarutobi at the hands of Hidan and Kakazu. Team 7 are called up for duty. Boruto would show up just in time to save Kakashi from Kakazu, and Boruto would use his new technique, the lightning release Arashikami. This is the perfect mesh of lightning release and the Rasengan. In striking Kakazu with it, the crackling orb that doesn't seem too far different from ball lightning electrocutes and burns him, and completely fries his chakra pathway system, making him unable to use his jutsu. It's then that Kakashi would come in and deal the finishing blow with his Chidori. However, this has a kickback, as Boruto's arm is burned and his chakra pathway system in his arm is also fried, making it hard for him to use jutsu himself. It's this that leads to the lightning release Arashikami to being branded a Kinjutsu. Orochimaru by this time is killed by Sasuke, and word reaches Konoha about this. Team 7 and 8 form up into an 8-man squad to track Sasuke or find Itachi, Sasuke's target. Boruto isn't very optimistic about this. After running into Kabuto, Boruto would run into Itachi, who only wishes to talk. Itachi asks Boruto what he would do if Sasuke ever made a move against Konoha. Boruto would reply with, "Whatever I have to do to protect the village." Itachi seems a little upset with this answer, though he doesn't mark it as the wrong answer. It just wasn't what he was hoping to hear. Itachi would then disappear in a flock of crows. Boruto would continue searching for Sasuke and Itachi, but they're held back by Tobi, who battles them until such a time as Zetsu informs him that Itachi has been killed by Sasuke. They then retreat. Having turned up nothing useful, they're forced to retreat back to Konoha. He's then summoned to see Tsunade, who proceeds to break the news to him. Jiraiya has been killed in Amagakure when he was searching for the Akatsuki. Boruto in that moment seems to go through the first 3 stages of grief. First, he can't believe that it's true. He believes that there's no way that anyone could kill Pervy Sage, but Tsunade assures him that it's true. Boruto would then accuse Tsunade, saying it was her fault for sending him in there, and that she shouldn't have sent him alone. And during this time, Tsunade just lets him speak. She knows it must be hard on him as it is on her. Boruto would then start saying that there must be some way to revive him. In the world of such ninjutsu, there has to be a way. He asks about Chiyo's technique, and Tsunade shakes her head. Jiraiya is gone, Boruto. You need to accept that. Remember who he was, and move on with that memory in your heart. Boruto would storm out. Much like Naruto, he would cry over a popsicle. He would eat half and let the other half melt. Boruto's crying wouldn't be as neat as Naruto's though. There would be much sniffling and many expressions and runny noses. It wouldn't be long after that Boruto would be sent to Mount Myoboku to finish the last stages of perfecting Sage Mode. He would go and train for a while with the Toad Sages until he'd be summoned to the center of Konoha because of the attack on the village by the Akatsuki leader named Pain. Boruto would fight against the 6 Paths of Pain, managing to actually defeat them, having completely mastered Sage Mode. He would track down Nagato and go in. He would berate Nagato about killing Jiraiya and ask him why he would do that. Nagato would explain that he was in the way and needed to be dealt with. Boruto would ask him how he could merely kill the man who raised and taught him, and Nagato would claim it to be for the greater good. Boruto would ask how killing a mostly innocent man and destroying a village full of civilians could be considered the greater good, and Nagato would say that it was all in the name of peace, that he needed the nine-tailed beast to awaken the ultimate weapon. He would give the world a taste of this weapon and show them that fighting against him is futile. He would teach them peace through pain, and ruin their taste in war by showing them how ugly it could be. Boruto told him that this was madness. He agreed that war wasn't good, but stopping war by committing murder would never solve anything. It would only cause people to hate and rise against him, which would in turn start a new war which would then consume the world. If he wanted peace, he needed to do it through love, like Jiraiya tried to. Nagato would listen and see how obviously torn up by this Boruto was. Boruto would continue. The only way to teach people to forget war is to teach them to care for others, to unite them under a smile. Nagato thought about all this, and after continuing to debate with Boruto about it, he decided to trust Boruto's views on it, and he would bring everyone back that he had killed in Konoha at the expense of his own life, and Konan takes his body away. Boruto is then celebrated as the hero of the Leaf. Tsunade has fallen into a coma though, and Danzo Shimura has become the interim Hokage until either Tsunade recovers, or according to his own plans, he becomes Hokage instead. A 5-Kage summit is called, and Danzo attends. Meanwhile, Sakura comes to the realization that Sasuke could start another war and get many people killed. Knowing that it's their responsibility to deal with Sasuke, Sakura invites Boruto to come along, knowing that his Sage Mode would help them track Sasuke better. They set off to find Sasuke. During this time, Sasuke crashes the summit and manages to kill Danzo. Sakura and Boruto arrive with their team to face off against Sasuke. Sasuke asks if they intend to stand in his way in regards to his revenge against Konoha, and Boruto says that he won't let Sasuke do it. Sasuke, by this time, has lost his curse mark, but he's attained a Mangekyo Sharingan. Together, Sakura and Boruto face off against Sasuke, and in the end, together they manage to kill him. After this, it would be revealed that the 4th Shinobi World War has been declared and that Boruto must be sent away to protect the Nine-Tails from the Akatsuki. They send Boruto to a remote island in the Land of Lightning for what they tell him is training. During this time, he meets Killer Bee, who Boruto thinks is pretty cool. He enjoys the same type of music that Killer Bee is always quoting and using to form his sentences. Killer Bee and Boruto immediately hit it off, and so Killer Bee tries to help Boruto to control the Nine-Tails energy. He has Boruto sit in front of a waterfall where he must confront his inner demons if he wishes to proceed deeper. Boruto sits there until his darker half appears. This darker half represents the hatred and resentment Boruto harbored, as well as the pain of betrayal that he felt due to Sasuke, and even further, the guilt at failing to bring him back. "You were never a good friend to Sasuke," the darker half would say. "Regardless of what he said or did, you know he tried to save you, meaning he cared about you at one point. And how do you repay him? with death. Boruto would tear up and know that he was right. Could he ever forgive himself? He began to think about all of it. He did this to save Konoha, but was that just an excuse? Did he really just give up when it might have been possible to save Sasuke? There was no telling anymore. It's just the way things happened. He would always feel bad about it, and Boruto still resented the village for what they had done to him. But he would still give his all for them, even if he needed to die to do so, and that's why he was here. Boruto was here to bear this all for everyone. He killed Sasuke to safeguard them after Sasuke killed the Hokage. Boruto wasn't perfect, but he knew that what he was here for was merely to gain the strength required to save the village. After debating within himself, Boruto came to realize that these things would always be a part of him, and that was okay. He would bear any darkness for the leaf, and with that, he was able to enter the temple. There, Killer Bee would help him get through his inability to control this tailed beast. He would help Boruto face Kurama head first, in which Boruto would prove that his will was far greater than it had once been. Not only did he manage to push Kurama back, but take some of its chakra too, allowing him to achieve Ninetales chakra mode. It's then that he senses the war and leaves the island to catch up. He would eventually show up to the war front, and most of this would happen almost exactly the same until the point that Sasuke would show up, which he can't because he's dead. This means it's up to Boruto and the rest of the allied shinobi forces to defeat Obito. This is where things get tricky, because without Sasuke, I'm not so sure if it's possible for him, even in Ninetales chakra mode with Sage mode added on, to even scratch Obito in that same way. But for all intents and purposes, we'll assume that the Sage of Six Paths appears to Boruto and offers him a full portion of his Six Paths Senjutsu. Would Boruto be able to do it then? Well, yeah, probably. He could probably manage to pull the tailed beasts out of Obito, but then again, round 2 begins with Madara's revival. However, here's the thing. Given that Boruto has awakened his Six Paths Sage mode earlier, would Madara even have a shot against Boruto? If Madara cannot, then the war ends there, with the Geto statue likely being hidden somewhere in the world where only select people could know where it was. If Madara managed to reclaim the Ten Tails, then likely Madara could hold his own until Kaguya revives, in which things get dark. I don't think Boruto can beat her alone. He definitely can't use the Six Paths Chibaku Tensei. The only thing I can think is that he would probably use the Kohaku no Johei or Beni Hisago that was used to revive the Ten Tails the first time to seal her away. Besides that, I don't know if he could beat her, but I'm not in the mood to write a tragedy, so we're gonna say that he has access to these 2 jars and uses one to seal away Kaguya. Of course, that's only if he doesn't flat out solo Madara before he can use his abilities to take the Ten Tails' power. After this, some time would pass and peace would return to the world. Due to the war, mutual respect was achieved by all villages, which Boruto thought was funny. Both the idealistic belief that love will bring people together, as well as the extreme belief that pain would do so, both turned out to be wrong. And right. The admiration and love fostered between villages could only have been achieved through mutual respect earned through the 4th Shinobi World War. But now it was up to the villages to choose to nurse these feelings forever, or they would risk returning to war and hate. Eventually, time would pass, and Hanabi Hyuga would be kidnapped by Toneri Otsutsuki to take her Byakugan in the hopes of awakening the Tenseigan. He would attempt to take Hinata as his wife and bring the moon crashing down upon Earth to destroy all life thereon. It would be up to Hinata and Toneri to repopulate the Earth, but that's not something Boruto would allow. He would go to the moon with his team, and more than likely, he would manage to defeat Toneri. I mean, if Naruto could, so could Boruto. Naruto doesn't really have anything that Boruto doesn't. After this, they would return to Earth. Now, normally Naruto and Hinata would get married, except Naruto is now Boruto, and because it would be super weird to have Boruto marry his main timeline counterpart's mom, I've elected not to do this. Instead, Boruto will marry Sakura. I mean, she's still single, right? She doesn't have Sasuke anymore, so it's really just perfect for Boruto to marry her. They would then have 2 children, Naruto and Sarada Uzumaki, and then the events of Naruto, Boruto Next Generations could occur. And that's all, folks. What did you think of our little what if? Did you enjoy the concept of Boruto replacing Naruto? I tried to keep Boruto's personality. I hope you found it interesting. Of course, I'm certain that my point of view on how these events would take place isn't the only one. I'm interested to know what you think would happen and what things you think would be different. Leave a comment down below and tell me. While you're at it, show your support for the channel by giving us a thumbs up and a subscription. Ring the bell to be notified when a new video drops like this one. Until then, peace.